This GameStop thing, how do we sum it up? I got nothing. Is that basically what he said? It's almost like
insanity.
It's almost like the emperor. It's almost like the emperor. You could say, "Oh my God, he's buck naked."
Well, it's also because, as you mentioned on Friday, Andrew, he got lawyered up.
He did.
That'd be pretty careful.
But he also was.
They have clothes for him.
He was acting like. Oh, I mean, did you watch? It was just like watching a train wreck of a situation.
What's he going to do? Is he going to say, "Here's why GameStop is fundamentally going to improve"? He's got nothing. He's got one of those 8 balls.
He had his 8 ball.
What did that say? What did it say when he looked at it?
He basically reiterated what he was saying 3 years ago. He was back on the same thing, but the first 15 minutes were so insane that I think any kind of like semi-sane person was watching this thinking, what is going on here? He
went in, and people said he's going to come out a billionaire, and as it turned out, he lost $250 million, essentially. Now, let's talk. Check out the shares of GameStop. The stock plunged. I don't know if he ever had the quarter. He had paper profits. Plunged by 40%. 40% on Friday after the company announced that sales dropped significantly in the first quarter. It said it was selling more stock. Investors weren't impressed by a live stream by Keith Gill, a.k.a. Roaring Kitty, who appeared on his YouTube channel for the first time since the meme stock craze of 2021. He reiterated his previous investing thesis, but offered little new reasoning behind his large stake.
They're in the transformation stage here, and what could they transform into? You know what I mean? There's a lot of question marks about that, understandably so. But essentially it becomes at this stage of that second part of the analysis, this transformation part, it becomes a bet on the management.
And Gill said he doesn't have any institutional backers and said the GameStop positions that he has shared are his only bets. Shares of GameStop were halted multiple times during his stream. It's kind of like a Pied Piper thing with a lot of followers. What does this mean for
the
regulators or E-Trade? No, what does it mean for people that were looking at it seems to me now they can say this is going to take care of itself. I think that's what they're probably saying.
Solo operator.
Huh?
Solo operator.
Yeah. It's like, enough said. If you guys want to, you individual investors, do what you want to do. But
I also think there are hedge funds and others who are just following this, thinking that they can sort of surf on top of these other, some of the retail and everything else. Yeah.
Which way?
Well, at this point, I don't know. But I think there was a moment, obviously, last week where they thought they could surf on top of them on the way up.
Really?
Clearly.
Even though they're the ones that he's trying to squeeze.
I don't know. Probably different ones he's trying to squeeze.
I don't think he's actually trying to squeeze. I'm not sure any of the theses we've had about this have anything to do with anything. Right now.
What was the other thing? He had the 8 ball, and there was something else I read that just seemed funny, that it was like bonkers, right? Sort of. Yeah. When it was all said and done, GameStop shares plunged on Friday after the company announced that sales dropped significantly in the first quarter and said it was selling more stock. In the pre-market, I think you can kind of see it. You could see it on that chart. It had run up, remember, earlier in the week to like 40, and then in the pre-market, it looked like it was going to go up 50% from there or more. When it was all said and done, it was all the way back to 28 today. It is up a little bit to around 30. All this happened after a live stream by Keith Gill, a.k.a. Roaring Kitty, failed to rally retail traders to his cause. Joining us now is the Axios reporter who's been tracking this story, Hope King, Axios senior business reporter. It started with such promise for people long on Friday, Hope, and then that surprise announcement when results were released, I guess presumably to get things ready for an expanded stock sale. That started the momentum down, and it was hard to stop that, and the live stream did not seem to help very much.
No, good morning, and thanks for having me back. I mean, first of all, I'm also sad that we're going to get shorter days. But that aside, it was really a story of fun versus fundamentals on Friday. So the fundamentals, as you mentioned, the company coming out early with the results of its first quarter going up against everybody who was just trying to watch what he was going to do. And at the end of the day, as of Friday, that story that he tried to tell on his live stream didn't win folks over. And of course, we're seeing a little bit of rebound in pre-market. But to me, that was really the big story, was that on Friday, at least, because we know how the story changes day to day with the stock, the fund did not win over the fundamentals, given the business is still in that very drastic turnaround strategy.
Just sort of going over a lot of the things he's been saying all along, Hope, about GameStop. I mean, 3 years ago, I guess you could buy some of it, but we've had now another 3 years of performance from the company. Are those old bullish sentiments, do they still work at this point? I'm not sure that they do, and I wonder if this is going to be a much more short-lived meme stock craze this time.
I think you're right. I think the analysts that you've had also on your program, have gone into this. I mean, this is a retail business, and we know that retail has pockets of strength right now and pockets of weakness. And, they're really trying to improve the relationship that the store employees have with the customers coming in. You've got Ryan Cohen in as of September. That was really his main thesis on Friday, Keith Gill, was that he believes that this guy is not a doofus, right? That he said that. You guys also at the beginning of your show talked about how it seemed pretty insane, the whole live stream. And by the end, as he saw the stock close down nearly 40%, he admitted, he's like, I'm a little cuckoo, right? Clearly I'm a cuckoo, and all of you guys are, and crazy sticks together. That's been the retail story a little bit with the stock, but with others as well. You and I talked about this with the Reddit IPO as well. People who are, people who understand businesses like a Reddit or like a GameStop, they feel like it's something they can get in on for the lulls. Everything the internet touches, right, turns to lulls. And that's really what you saw in the comments, too, that were rapidly going into that live stream. At one point, there were 644,000 concurrent people tuning into that stream.
I'm watching right now. I didn't see it. And it looks like fun, I guess, but there's the 8 ball. It is a little bit crazy. How many times can you go back to the well with, I'm crazy and I'm buying and it's going to go up 40%? I don't. Sooner or later, it's like buyer beware. It's not going to keep happening, is it?
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, if you look at his Twitter account, his X account, he only posts memes, right? His last one as of 10 hours ago was a screenshot, a little clip from the movie Batman, The Dark Knight. So, even at the beginning of his live stream, over 50 minutes of that live stream, I mean, a big chunk of it was just him laughing uncontrollably at himself, looking at his own image as he put Band-Aids all over himself and, try to reiterate
what did you
that
think was going on, honestly, when you saw this? Did you? I mean, he only broke out the beer sort of 20 minutes in, but I thought maybe some beer had been broken out prior or something.
Agree with you 100% that he had pre-gamed before this. I think he was nervous. I think he was watching Andrew Left on your program with Scott before he went on. And I think you guys talked about, him lawyering up before that live stream. And he made very clear points that he's working alone. He's not working with anybody else. He's not working with hedge funds. I mean, these are all the things that people have been speculating out in the media. I think he's watching it very closely, everybody who's been talking about him. And he's been really trying to clear up the air in his own way about it.
Do you think right now, Hope, what type of fundamentals would you think GameStop would need to be worth $30 a share? Are we there right now?
I mean, I do not have the certifications to give you that answer, but I do think that, like I said, the retail story is a pretty difficult one all across the board,
Still
especially
worth $10
with
billion.
gaming.
Still worth $10 billion. I mean, it's, $10 billion, nothing to sneeze. There's plenty of downside, I would think, if things don't improve.
Yes, and I think, but look at what's happening, with Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard. I mean, they're all going to the streaming model, right, for video games. So that connection, that in-store experience, has to be paramount at this point to get people back in the doors. Outside of just the video games that they're selling, I think on the experience side. So I think, look again. We'll see what Ryan Cohen has up his sleeve, but you can only, I think, be the Pied Piper, the Mr. Beast of the stock for so long before, people also say, you know what, I think I've lost enough. I think I'll try my hand at some other stock. I don't know. That's sort of where my head's at.
All right, Hope, thanks.
Keith Gill's live stream on Friday brought some renewed attention to GameStop, but are retail investors really sticking with the stock this time? Kate Rooney joins us right now for more on this. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Becky. Good morning. Yeah, so there are some signs that individual investors aren't as committed to the GameStop trade if you compare what's going on to the meme stock's heyday 3 years ago. One point comes from Vanda Research, which highlights what they call yo-yo-like inflows into GameStop since the return of Keith Gill, a.k.a. Roaring Kitty, to social media. And then his live stream last week. Inflows haven't been as steady. For example, one day last week, they saw about 18 million of inflows, and then the next day it was just 3 million into GameStop. So 3 years ago, daily inflows were about 5 times what we saw last week. And then as Vanda put it, individuals may be showing what they call paper hands rather than the acclaimed diamond hands. If you remember that, back in 2021, diamond hands are this nickname for those who would hold on to a stock without any plans to sell. It's not also just retail trading GameStop. Only about 11% of the turnover, which is a proxy for trading activity, has been from individuals. It was above 15% if you look back 3 years. And then Vanda points to high-frequency institutional traders also front-running retail's efforts. And then performance data demonstrates that this is not turning into the widespread bullish phenomenon for the meme stock cohort. So that's one factor there. Some also have deja vu. If you think about the losses in GameStop since the all-time high, the moderators of wallstreetbets, that infamous Reddit forum, which really was the poster child for online meme stock trading a few years ago, saying recently that they don't want the stock discussed there at all. They say people ended up bag holding last time. They say we'd much rather, I'm paraphrasing here, but you go do that stuff elsewhere. They say good luck, Roaring Kitty, but your whole shtick, as they put it, and then disappearance really effed up retail guys. Back to you.
All right, Kate, thank you very much. Watching this pretty closely. I mean, when you were, I take it, Kate, watching the live stream, what were you thinking as it went through? It was a little unusual, to say the least.
It was unusual. It was unusual. I mean, it was sort of a bit, it was this exaggerated caricature of Roaring Kitty, this guy who used to give more serious monologues and his thesis about trading the stock. He showed up in a sling with Band-Aids. His hair was much longer. He's drinking a beer during this thing. So it was hard to take it seriously in terms of any sort of analysis. But he did say that. He said, I'm not a reasonable person. This is a YOLO trade. He's doing this sort of for the fanfare and the attention, it seems. So that seems to be the whole point of this, is that he is trading here, putting on this massive trade, I would say, for the attention and for just the sheer awe effect of the dollar amount. But, his stake has now grown into the hundreds of millions. So there's a little bit to take seriously there, just in terms of the dollar size.
It was a lot. We were looking, and it was a 38 GameStop as he was saying all this on Friday. This morning, it's up from where it closed on Friday, but at 29.33. Anyway, Kate, thank you. Kate Rooney.
Thanks, Becky.
For more right now on what regulators may be looking at when it comes to trades and GameStops, we want to bring in Firdos Altai, who served as senior counsel in the enforcement division of the SEC. And Firdos, thank you for being with us today. There were a lot of questions about what he might say on Friday and whether or not that would land him in hot water. From what I saw, didn't seem to be anything that would necessarily be a big red flag for regulators. But what did you think?
Agree. I mean, he's a smart guy. He holds many FINRA regulations. He knows exactly what he's doing. I saw the whole thing as a stream of consciousness. He's not telling people what to do. He's only discussing his personal opinion. That doesn't give regulators a lot of wiggle room with what they want to do.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to label him a market manipulator. He answered questions saying it was just him. He didn't have other people who were in it with him. That would have been something they would have watched very closely. And he certainly seemed to lay out and show what he was holding. I mean, it showed that he would have lost quite a lot of ground just as the stock went down, too.
If anything, what he's doing right now is setting up a perfect defense for market manipulation. He's giving regulators everything that he would use in his defense if they brought up a market manipulation. I think ultimately what they're trying to do is ban him. That's a very high bar for them to reach.
Ban him from ever being able to trade again?
I think so. I mean, that would be the only outcome, right? If he was charged with market manipulation, they would be seeking a lifetime ban. They would try to get him out of the market completely. You see what E-Trade is doing. They're unhappy. However, they're getting the best press they've ever gotten. Their information is on every single thing he posts. So they should be happy right now, in a good position as well.
I didn't think about that this is free advertising, whether they like it or not. What do you just think about the retail movement in general? It's something that we saw the huge rise up during the pandemic. There's still a lot of active retail trading. And look, on Wall Street, people have always said they want people to be involved in trading. What do you think of this brand of retail trading?
I think it's fantastic. For the first time, individual investors are out there. They're out in front. They're learning from people. Now, look, meme stocks, there could be an SEC rule on meme stocks. Maybe they just don't like that. But retail investors are finally getting into the market. They're starting to understand what's going on. They're trading their own money. And that's great for the market. And if Wall Street wants to try to beat retail, they're doing that right now. This is a game. Wall Street is the game. And now regular investors are having fun, too.
Having fun, and I guess part of it is just getting people actively involved. What's the right way to go about this? Because you don't want to see retail investors who are left holding the bag if there's a big movement that is not based on fundamentals and things that get tossed around. But look, people have thought that Wall Street was rigged for years and years anyway, and that the retail investor could never win.
That's true. I mean, but here right now with these types of meme stocks, Keith Gill particularly, everything is public, right? Perfect information makes perfect trades. That is the baseline of economics. The more retail investors have actual information, the better decisions they can make. Right now, we're seeing retail investors act very differently from how they did back in 2021. We're also seeing the street act very differently. They're reacting to Keith Gill. They're reacting to the positions he's showing that he's holding and affirming that he's holding. This is what the market is supposed to do.
How much of it, though, is different than what day traders were back in the late 90s, early 2000s? I mean, it's one thing to be an investor. It's another thing to be a trader. And it's a lot harder to be a trader, whether you're a pro or whether you're a retail investor.
Right. There's always winners and losers. Day trading is one of the highest risk positions that you can take. That doesn't mean that retail investors should be banned from doing it. Day traders have been banned, right? Because they know how to manipulate the market. They know how to effect a short squeeze. I think if what they're trying to do, if regulators are looking at what Keith Gill and other meme stock creators are doing, is what they're trying to do is find a rule that doesn't exist right now to control the market. We don't want retail investors left holding the bag, but they have perfect information about what could or could not happen with this particular stock.
Okay. Ferdos, thank you.
That comment near the end when she said regulators are trying to, quote, find a rule that doesn't exist right now to control the market. What? Is she telling us this is just going to be another instance of individual investors winning, and then Wall Street changes the rules to their own advantage? Because if so, then nothing's new. They've been changing the rules over the past century every single time individual investors do something the overlords on Wall Street don't want them to do. I think the buy button being turned off in January 2021 while selling was still allowed is a prime example of that. Ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. Let me be clear. Keith, along with every single other person, has the right to share his opinions, post memes on social media, and transparently share the positions he holds. There's nothing wrong with that, nothing in the slightest. And it is certainly not market manipulation. Not at all. This discussion of Keith being banned from the stock market not only has implications for the rights of individual investors, but it also has implications on Keith's and everyone else's First Amendment rights. Think about this for a moment. What has Keith done? He has shared his thoughts and his opinions about a company that he likes. He has taken a position in that company's stock with his own money. He has posted memes online. He has transparently disclosed his position to the public, and as far as we know, he hasn't sold anything yet. So please tell me how that is different from the money managers who go on CNBC all the time to tout their book and tell the public what stocks they're invested in. Here's the difference. Keith doesn't tell anyone to buy the stock he owns, but the talking heads who go on CNBC often do tell the public which stocks to buy. The hypocrisy is insane. If Keith is banned from trading in his own account merely due to how other people react to his transparency and opinions, then I guess regulators will also have to ban every single money manager who's ever pumped a stock on CNBC, and there are many of them. It's also amazing that the talking heads in the financial press don't say anything about GME being halted every time a bullish setup would appear on the chart. Here is just one example of many. Here is the chart from last Friday on the 1-minute time frame. Notice we were just oversold, had a cross on the MACD and also a break above the short-term SMA line. For day traders and any other stock, this is a bullish setup that many traders would take as an entry point for a quick trade. But guess what? As soon as this bullish setup presented itself on the chart and the stock began to move higher, the stock was abruptly halted. This was long before Keith started streaming. And this is just one example of many on Friday. This is what happened all day Friday. A bullish setup presents itself on the chart, halt. Another bullish pattern forms, halt. In other words, they literally would not let the stock lift. And many of these halts did not meet the criteria for a volatility halt to be put into effect. It seems someone had quite a heavy finger on the halt button all day last Friday. And for the talking heads to not even acknowledge this is disingenuous and an insult to their viewers. At the end of the day, what individual investors want is simple, and nothing we're advocating for is beyond the realm of reason. Individual investors want a free, fair, and transparent stock market. We want large institutions to be held accountable for their actions. We want individual investors to have access to the same real-time data from exchanges' better private feeds, which is currently only available to the large firms on Wall Street. We want short sale data to be reported in real time. We want an end to excessive amounts of failures to deliver, and we want entities who fail to deliver on their obligations to be held accountable. We want an end to payment for order flow due to the insane conflicts of interest it creates. There's a reason why so many other countries have already banned it. We want the exchanges to be not-for-profit utilities as they once were. The exchanges becoming for-profit ventures has created so many conflicts of interest at the expense of individual investors. We want increased competition among market makers. And we want all of individual investors' orders to be routed directly to lit transparent exchanges rather than opaque alternative trading systems known as dark pools. Ultimately, it's simple. What we want is a stock market that offers a truly level playing field for all investors. Please leave a like on this video so more people will see it. And while you're down there, please consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.